Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:07. It's a super busy Thursday morning, this 14th day of August, as we just plow through 2025 and the news cycle. Coming up in 30 minutes, Anna Giaratelli, DHS reporter from the Washington Examiner, to share her own experience with D.C. crime. Anna was fed up with all of these D.C. reporters saying, hey, it's a safe town. I never see any crime. Bethany, why is it only right-of-center reporters working for conservative publications see or experience crime? Weird, isn't it?
It's very strange. It's one of my favorite things. I was watching Fox the other day, and they had a segment, and you could see the talking points on every single Democrat's Twitter. Crime is at a 30-year low. But my favorite was that one of them accidentally copied and pasted wrong, and it just said a 3-year low. And I'm like, that's it, actually.
Yeah, closer. Also at 8:05, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears will join us to talk about her campaign and why we got to stop Abigail Spanberger. That's Bethany Mandel. I'm Larry O'Connor, and I know our next guest agrees we got to stop Abigail Spanberger. He's currently the chairman of the Republican National Committee. I say currently because he's also announced his candidacy for Senate in North Carolina, but that's in 2026. We got a lot of work to do with Michael Whatley. Michael, thanks for joining us, sir.
It's great to be on with you guys.
I do want to delve into the Sears versus Spanberger race in Virginia, because I know that you, the RNC, and the president would love to have a Republican win, an unprecedented second term in Virginia coming after Youngkin's great victory. But first, I'd love for you to sort of reflect on, just in terms of pure political strategy, what are the Democrats thinking? It seems like since the president decided that he wanted to actually make Washington, D.C. safer with unprecedented crime and carjackings and murders, Democrats are either in denial, claiming that D.C. is perfectly safe, or they're just angry that Trump's trying to do something about it.
You know, it's remarkable. You think to, the riots that we saw out in Los Angeles, where the president was sending in the troops to kind of quiet down the riots, and the Democrats went ballistic. You look at what they're doing here. You're looking at campuses everywhere around the country. If there is violence, if there are mobs, the Democrats are there to protect it. And the Republicans, especially President Trump, they just want peace. They want safe communities. They want safe kids. It really should not be that difficult a conversation. And yet the Democratic leadership in every single major city is tripping all over themselves. Whether they're violent criminals or violent criminal illegal aliens, that's who they're trying to fight to protect.
So is there you're at sort of headquarters of the RNC. I wonder the strategery thinking behind that Democratic decision to go all in on that messaging. Are they what polling numbers are you seeing on your end, and what could they possibly be seeing on their end? Because to me, as just, a dum-dum who talks on the radio sometimes, I feel like that's not a winning message. What numbers are you seeing at the RNC that sort of indicate that I'm right, basically?
Well, the numbers I'm seeing say that 70%, 75%, 80% of Americans want safe communities. And they want law and order. They back the blue. And there is strong support for President stepping in, to stop the riots, to stop the mobs. And to help clean up Washington, D.C., the biggest problem for the Democrats is the fact that it's President Trump. And Trump derangement syndrome is very real. And it doesn't matter what that guy says, they're going to oppose it. And it doesn't matter what he does, they're going to oppose it.
So given that, could this be something that other Republicans take up? It's a phenomenon that needs to be pointed out, that even in so-called red states or very red states, you still have these centers of blue, as we've seen from the gerrymandering issues and the redistricting issues. And so even in, let's say a state like Texas, you've got high crime in Dallas, you've got high crime in Houston. Will there be a renewed effort, do you think, by Republican governors? It's like, no, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. Even if the Democrats run the police departments and have their prosecutors, we're still going to do kind of what Trump's doing on a national level in D.C.
Yeah, look, one of the biggest things that President Trump has ushered in with the Republican Party is just listen to the voters. Like, understand the issues that they care about, put solutions on the table. And in every single community, particularly these big cities, law and order, crime, and safety are huge issues. And so, the Republicans are at this point the party of common sense. And the Democrats are just bending over backwards to accommodate criminals, to accommodate violent criminal illegal aliens, and they're fighting for everybody except their constituents. It's really baffling.
Can I ask you about this Virginia governor's race? We got a report. Abigail Spanberger has raised the majority of her money from outside the state of Virginia. And there are major controversies going on, including the apparent facilitated abortion for 2 teenage girls in a Fairfax County high school without parental notification. These are minors, and apparently the school district funded it. The governor, Youngkin, has asked for a criminal investigation. She's not being asked about this issue. She's not commenting on this issue. She hasn't commented on the Loudoun County gender bathroom issue. These are major stories for parents and voters in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Spanberger's getting a bit of a pass. She's the Teflon candidate. Is the RNC invested in this race, Chairman Whatley, and will you be running advertisement? Will you be helping with the effort between now and Election Day?
Yeah, what the Republican Party does, and we are definitely invested in the race, and I actually have been in Virginia several times campaigning with Winsome and, setting up our election integrity program and making sure that we are there to help get out the vote, right? Really, when it comes down to the 3 legs that you need in a campaign to win in a battleground state like Virginia, you need a great candidate who runs a great campaign. You need to get out the vote. You need to protect the ballot. That's what we do, right? And with Winsome, we have a great candidate. And so we're in a position to work with the Virginia Republican Party to make sure that we're going to have the volunteers that we're recruiting, we're training, we're knocking on doors, we're making phone calls, we're going to get out the vote. We're working very hard during Virginia's early vote period to make sure that we're going to have, everybody lined up to get out there and vote for that. And then to protect the ballot. So we've hosted a number of workshops all across the state that I've been at, that others are at, where we are recruiting and training the volunteers and the lawyers that we need to work the polls and to be across the state. Look, Virginia needs a common sense governor, right? What they don't need is a rubber stamp for the agenda that's coming out of New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Chicago. Abigail Spanberger, as she has been in Congress, has never voted against the Democratic Party at all. She has always been right there, lockstep with Hakeem Jeffries, with Nancy Pelosi, with Joe Biden. That's not what Virginia needs. They need a conservative, independent voice. Glenn Youngkin really, truly showed the Republican Party the way out of the wilderness in 2021. He was a bright light that basically said, we're not going in Virginia to go down this road. And he did it by going back to that same formula I mentioned a minute ago, which is listen to your voters, understand the issues that they care about, and put solutions on the table. That's how Winsome Sears is going to win this election.
So thinking about RNC sort of strategy going into this next election, we've talked a lot about cities. Are you going to try to turn some of these cities? I mean, I don't know how much hope there is for a place like New York City, although, right over the bridge in New Jersey, that governor's race is looking increasingly competitive. Are you going to be encouraging Republicans like Jack in New Jersey to say, like, go into Newark, go into Camden, and, in the Virginia governor's race, like, go into deep blue Fairfax County and see if you can have those conversations? Is that on the table, sort of flipping that urban vote?
It needs to be on the table. Look, I mean, President Trump did rallies in downtown Milwaukee, downtown Detroit, downtown Pittsburgh, downtown Philadelphia, obviously in the Bronx. He was in New Jersey. He was in Atlanta. Because what he was trying to do was to reach every single voter and every single family and every single community. And you have to have those conversations. So, yeah, it's very important for the Republican Party in every state across the country to make sure they're talking to every community and to every voter. We didn't have like a black agenda, a Hispanic agenda, and a Asian American agenda. What we had was an American agenda, and it was, secure the border, rebuild the economy, and make sure that America is respected across the world again. Every single family in the country needs that. We need safe kids. We need safe communities. Let's go have a conversation about what we're doing to keep our kids and our communities safe. The Democrats are on the wrong side of every 80-20 issue in that portfolio, right? Let's talk about our standing in the world and whether or not the Republican Party is the better party to make sure that our troops get the supplies that they need to keep our interests and allies around the world. Let's talk about the border, right? Let's talk about what happened under Democratic control, under Joe Biden's control, versus now we have 3 straight months in a row where not a single illegal alien was allowed into the United States across our borders. These are very important conversations. We need to remember, put first things first and go back to the basics and talk about what those families matter.
Chairman of the RNC, thanks for joining us. And make sure you tell Texas, don't get wobbly now. Stay focused on redistricting. This is huge that Republicans are finally playing the game Democrats have. Speaking as a Marylander, where I am not represented at all in the House, except for just 1 out of 8 districts, it's great to see Republicans doing that, and keep up the good work there with the redistricting effort. Thank you, Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
It's 7:17.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
You want to know how serious U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro is about crime in Washington, D.C.? A man is facing federal charges after throwing a Subway sandwich at a Customs and Border Protection officer Sunday night. Sean Charles Dunn shouted at the officer who was patrolling with Metro Transit Police in Northwest D.C., screaming, "F you, effing fascist, why are you here? I don't want you in my city." And then he threw a Subway sandwich at him. It looks like a foot long, actually.
I wish radio was visual, because I think you need to describe him in detail, what he's wearing.
So, pasty white skin, pink polo shirt,
and it's like pastel pink. It's peach pastel.
Yeah, it's not like a manly pink. It's true. The pink shirt is the same color as his thighs and calves, actually.
Keep on going, then you have to move down, and then describe his shorts.
Very snug. I want to call Vineyard Vine style Nantucket shorts that are halfway up the thigh. It's a little scandalous, but it was hot Sunday night, I must say. He cuts a fine image, doesn't he?
I wish him the best of luck in lockup.
Dude. He's going to be very popular.
Can't wait. They should. That's how he can raise bail money, is to put a camera in lockup to see how that goes for him.
Can I say, it is a kind of a homoerotic moment here as he throws this Subway sandwich at this officer. He clearly loves a man in uniform. And not since Jussie Smollett has a Subway sandwich been involved in such a horrendous and somewhat pornographic crime.
Is the FCC going to turn this off? Or they're like,
oh, no, we're fine. We're dancing right on the edge. Yeah. You know what? The best thing about this, I love that all the write-ups are he allegedly did this. No, we're watching the video, guys. Right. We know he literally did it. We don't have to dance around this. But I love watching all the uniformed officers just staring at him as he's ranting at them. Like, what are you going to do? And then, he did what nobody thought he would do. He literally threw a Subway sandwich at them.
And he is going to get robbed by reality so fast.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Judge Jeanine is not taking any garbage here. Take a listen to her. But you know what? This is the broken window syndrome. This is what Giuliani got right. Yeah. If you allow somebody to throw a sandwich at an officer in uniform while they're doing their job, then that leads to the next level. You stop it, and you stop it now. Take a listen to Judge Jeanine.
So President Trump has vowed to make D.C. safe and beautiful again. And as part of his effort to fight crime, he's bringing in our federal law enforcement partners like FBI, ATF, DEA, or Park Police, everybody to help the Metropolitan PD fight crime. And the president's message to the criminals was, if you spit, we hit. Well, we didn't quite do that the other night when an individual went up to one of the federal law enforcement officers and started jumping up and down, screaming at him, berating him, yelling at him. And then he took a Subway sandwich about this big and took it and threw it at the officer. He thought it was funny. Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer. And we're going to back the police to the hilt. So
can I just ask, like Blimpies or Firehouse Subs or Quiznos, are they like saying, hey, can we get in on this action?
I know.
Subway's getting all this
Smollett,
free
too.
advertising.
So this is like parenting 101. You let the little stuff go that is just openly antagonistic and openly, against.
Defiant.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Openly defiant. This is how you get to crime being out of control. If you don't control those little moments, and this is obviously it's a joke. We're all laughing. It's not this.
No. I want him prosecuted.
Officer, but exactly.
I absolutely want him.
But I want him prosecuted because they think that, and this is like this pasty white Vineyard Vines jock who thought that he thinks he's above the law. He thinks it's all a joke. I'm sorry, sir. Welcome to mess around and find out.
And also, by the way, I think that we need to seriously look at some common sense sandwich control laws in Washington, D.C. that sandwich is way too big to get. Speaking of Subway, by the way, Jussie Smollett is back in the news. He's attacking Rahm Emanuel, the Chicago police, calling them villains, and he denies still that he lied about his attack. He's still sticking with his story, man.
Love it.
Although, to be fair, my understanding is, unlike the footlong action here in Washington, D.C., Jussie Smollett that night, it was really more of a 6-inch Italian. 7:24. Coming up, Washington Examiner DHS reporter Anna Giaratelli, who is she is opening up about a horrific attack that she suffered in 2020. She has firsthand experience about the criminal element in Washington, and she'll tell her story next.
WMAL-FM Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:37. It's O'Connor and Company on a busy Thursday morning. Every day is busy, though, here in this town with our lives. Are you kidding? Coming up at 8:05, the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. She wants to get an upgrade and become the governor. Winsome Sears will be here. And then at 8:35, KT McFarland on the Trump-Putin meeting. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Bethany Mandel. Good morning, Bethany.
Good morning, Larry. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, proprietor of the Mom Wars podcast and Substack. Check out the Mom Wars there to stay on top of everything Bethany's doing. Joining us right now is a friend of the program, Anna Giaratelli. She's a reporter for the Washington Examiner. She covers Department of Homeland Security and immigration issues. But Anna, your latest story is rather personal. After everything that you're hearing in Washington over the course of the last several days from politicians and, strangely, from reporters who were supposed to report the truth and facts, you decided to come out with a story about an attack that you suffered back in 2020. And it takes a lot of courage to do this. I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah. Hey, Larry.
Were you compelled to come out with your story and explain what happened to you 5 years ago because you've seen what nothing short of gaslighting going on right now from your colleagues, reporters from other outlets who are claiming that I never see any crime here in Washington?
Yeah, it happened 5 years ago. I've written a book. I'm in the process of finishing it and finding a publisher. And what President Trump was doing on Monday sort of pushed me over the edge. I said, well, why don't I start talking about it now? I don't have to wait till the book is published.
Yeah.
And that sort of, led me to come out and share my story. And I've waited 5 years for hoping that other victims would speak out about the way they'd seen the police and the courts fail them. And no one has, and they don't need to. But I thought it was time that I said something.
So it was a Saturday morning and you were walking and you were assaulted. I want to fast forward a little bit. So you went to the police, all of those things. What has been troubling about DC crime is obviously it's the crime itself, but it's also the prosecutorial malfeasance that I'm seeing. And I'd like you to speak a little bit to, after you were assaulted, what happened to your assailant and where is he now?
So after I was assaulted, they were able to get DNA from my clothing from him. And a few months later, they arrested him on the street. He was homeless. And the judge chose to allow him to be immediately released back onto the street. He lives on the street close to where I lived on Capitol Hill. And then he was arrested 5 more times before we went to trial. And in all 5 situations, all 5 arrests, including for wielding a machete on the street.
Oh my God.
He was released from jail immediately by the same judge. And so I left DC because I didn't feel safe in my own home.
So absolutely outrageous. Go ahead, Bethany.
No,
Sorry,
it's terrifying. So has the judge sort of explained his, I assume it's a he, has he explained his reasoning why he kept cutting this guy loose onto the streets?
I never got to speak with the judge until the end during sentencing, and I told the judge how disappointed I was by his own decisions. But what I was told by the U.S. Attorney's Office, who prosecuted the case, was that they didn't want to overcrowd the jails. This was after COVID or during COVID. And so that's why he kept getting released onto the street, which made me feel like the city valued his health over my safety, and not just my safety, but women and men. Yeah.
Usually if somebody's living on the street, and this judge knew that this person lived on the street, right? This person had no address, no physical address. Mm-hmm. That's somebody who's either suffering from mental illness or horrific addiction, or they're just a criminal element who made that decision. Generally speaking, if somebody is truly just impoverished and they don't have any of those underlying problems, they can find shelter. They can work with various rescue missions around town, including government missions. So if you're insisting on living in the street, it means usually one of those things. Do we know, had this person been evaluated for mental illness or any other issue?
He was evaluated during the once he was arrested. Actually, before sentencing, it's a 60-day delay before sentencing to ensure that this person is stable enough to go to prison and such. Mm-hmm. I can tell you, and this wasn't in the op-ed I wrote this morning that came out for the Washington Examiner, but he was screaming at the top of his lungs when he attacked me, "They're trying to kill me."
Yeah.
So there was something serious going on in his head. Yeah. And so, I don't know.
I ask because I'm told that we should. It is out of compassion that we don't, institutionalize or apprehend and round up those who are breaking our laws right now against criminal vagrancy. That's what it is. People call it homelessness. No, it's criminal vagrancy. They are breaking the law and they are vagrants. This person attacked you, assaulted you, and I'm sorry, he's a criminal, and I have no compassion for him other than as a human being who is suffering mental illness. The compassionate thing, I would think, is to evaluate that and actually try to treat it for your safety, for our safety, and also for his good.
Yeah, and you know what, guys? I want to tell you, too, I understand. I appreciate D.C. police, how frustrated they must be arresting him over and over and over again, only to see him released back into the same ward, the same neighborhood, and say, this guy's back and he's doing something else now. But what I uncovered as a victim, he was charged with sex abuse for what he did to me physically and sexually on the street. And if you look at DC crime, at DC police at their crime stats online, there's no stat on there for what happened to me. A man went to federal prison for assaulting me, and DC police didn't count that. Because I wasn't raped. And I didn't know until I was a victim that DC police only counts the top degrees of certain crimes. So for sex abuse, if you're not raped, DC police doesn't count that, even though it was serious enough to go to federal prison.
Wow. So you were sexually assaulted by this man on the street. If it had happened in the street in Frederick, Maryland, it would have been counted as a sexual assault, but because it happened in D.C., it wasn't.
Yeah, there. You know what? I can only hypothesize why they don't want to have it out there. It sure seems like they don't want crime to look as bad as it is. So we're only going to say that sex abuse crimes were this number, and in reality, there were. How many were there victims like me who, are not counted in the stats? And what that tells you is it's like the city saying, "That's right. Well, it wasn't a big deal." I mean, someone went to federal prison, but it wasn't a big deal. Get over it.
Yeah, look the other way. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's maddening, and as the father of two young women who work in big cities, it terrifies me that they will be victimized like this. It's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it, Anna. And you shouldn't have to go through this again in writing your book and writing your column and doing media appearances, but the denial of the reality of what's going on right now has compelled you to do it, and I really appreciate your courage, and I'm sorry this happened to you.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks so much.
It is 7:45, WMAL traffic and weather, every 10 minutes, first on the fives. That's Anna Giaratelli. Check out her op-ed at Washington Examiner and pre-order her book the second it comes out. We'll have her on because she should at least sell a ton of books about this.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
The truth is out there. Bethany Mandel, I've never asked, I know that you like to jump on board various crazy conspiracy theories like Brigitte Macron's gender identity. But are you, that's not, I thought that was you.
I think she's a woman. Don't rewrite history here.
Wait a second. I thought we were going to talk about Anna Polita.
You confusing me with Candace Owens? It happens to me all the time.
Oh, hold on. Wait. What, are we going to stick with the UFOs? All right, let's stick with the UFOs. Anna Polita Luna apparently has inside information. She's on a subcommittee in Congress, right, that is like delving into a bunch of secrets that the government is keeping about stuff, including the JFK assassination, MLK.
I'm here for it. I am generally, unless it's Candace Owens doing the talking about a conspiracy theory, you can pretty much count on me to be invested in whatever it is.
All right. Well, coming up, she's shared some information with Joe Rogan about what she has learned now about what she claims is the government's absolute complicit knowledge of alien beings who operate in another dimension. We'll share it with you coming up in a little bit. The X-Files music just sort of compelled me to give you a quick tease on that. We'll get to it in the next hour, though, because I want to make sure we have enough time so you can hear it all.
We need a lot of time on this.
Yeah. One other follow-up, though, here. We got a Washington Examiner reporter we would just listen to who told her story. And again, I mean, I'm only half joking when I say it appears as though this criminal element in D.C. and the homeless are just targeting conservative or right-of-center websites, because the Federalist detailed yesterday a torment that they had to deal with outside their offices in Washington. A drunk, belligerent vagrant blockaded the office door. This is while all these journalists from CNN and the Washington Post insist that there's no crime going on. I guess, do they have armed security there? Or have the marching orders been put out to the criminal vagrants in this town to just target conservative outlets?
So it seems probably likely that if this vagrant had been parked outside of somewhere else, he would have just been like this whimsical, charming. They would have seen him in a different light.
Just town hobo. Yeah, exactly.
One of my favorite things that I ever got canceled for on Twitter was I posted how a homeless drug addict was dancing. So I was driving to the Lincoln Tunnel with my kids, and there was someone who was blocking traffic because they kept on going in and out of the median, and they were dancing very beautifully, very rhythmically with the pigeons. And so I tweeted just like a flippant, like, I brought my kids to the Med and da-da-da, and all they're going to remember is the homeless drug addict dancing with the pigeons as we were driving into the Lincoln. And I got completely canceled by the left. Why do you assume that he's homeless? Why do you assume he's a drug addict? I'm like, well, I have eyes. And this is how they handle these things. They just gaslight.
I suppose, but I mean, to be honest, after working in the theater business in New York, I think that guy's practicing his one-man show opening at the Helen Hayes next October. It's 7:54.